I'm such a dunce. I forgot to tweet or do anything. I was so excited. I was talking to Ian. and, and so no one's probably watching this, which is all right.
It's
Uh,
funny when you go live because then I get the YouTube notification also on my computer. It says Starfleet Boy is live now because I'm
oh wow,
subscribed to
nice.
your channel.
Yes, it's working. Glad to hear that. We're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. Today we are focused on, look at me, I'm so unprepared. Um, there we go.
This
Oh,
side of
wait, that's
paradise.
the wrong. How the heck did that happen? I didn't change it. All right, anyways, it's not a taste of Armageddon. It's this side of paradise. We're here to talk about
That's correct.
this side of paradise. And, well, what does this side of paradise look like for Fathery after a night of partying? Our
After Drunk Space Nine, followed by Starfleet Boy
Good
After
Boy
Dark.
After Dark. It was super lit. I haven't seen you
Yeah.
that
Do you want to hear something crazy?
sure, let's tell us.
Is that when I woke up this morning? Like, well, yesterday, like I had like a whole lot of like dirty dishes in the sink, and then when I woke up this morning, like they were all like I did the dishes last night, in- intoxicated, and totally forgot that I did them. I was
That's
like,
the
wow, that is awesome! What a nice surprise to wake up to.
that's a really nice way.
Normally,
I do
normally,
things like that
normally when you're
too.
drunk, you normally find more dirt and more
Right?
sink. Not it's all washed.
You would be a great housemate, Fathery. I would let you get as wasted as you wanted if you were my housemate.
Yeah, I'm very proud of my drunk self.
um, by the way, hold on while I get my act together here. All right, Star Trek discussion. This side of paradise. All right, we got that going on. Who wants to do the summary?
Oh no, my dog is being loud. Damn it.
That's all right. Amos wants to do the summary. That's
Yeah, he's like doing it in like dog language. So I don't know what percentage of your audience can interpret that.
I'll nominate Ian to do it. The Dadmiral can do it this time.
The Admiral.
And while you do
Okay.
that, I'll send out the tweet.
Right. Right. The USS Enterprise is ordered to a Federation colony of Omicron Ceti III. Captain Kirk and Spock are ordered to find out what's happened to the colony on that planet. Kirk sends down a landing party, including Spock, McCoy, DeSalle, Sulu, and a couple of others to find out what's going. They get to the settlement. They find nothing's there, and they think, "What a sad state of affairs! Everybody's died from Berthold radiation." Only to be surprised that Elias Sandoval is there saying, "No, we are alive." So they go into one of the houses to speak to Sandoval, and Leela is there. And Leela is a woman that is from Spock's past. It's a woman that is who loved him, but he couldn't return the love. During the investigations, they find out that there's no animals, there's no cows, there's no dogs, there's no birds, and they couldn't work out why. And also during medical examinations, and parts of the anatomy had regrown, like appendix, and scarring had been healed, and they couldn't work out why. During this investigation, Leela takes Spock to a certain place where there's some plants, and they release spores onto Spock. But for Spock, it's painful. He's in total pain. And she says, "This is not the way it's supposed to be." After a couple of seconds through the pain, he then comes through the other side, and he's there, and he's full of emotions, and he says, "I can love you."
I
Through that,
can love
Spock,
you.
through that, Spock does his.
Sorry.
Kirk is doing his investigation, and because Spock's just disappeared at this time and wondering what's going on, he calls him on the communicator, and Spock is different. Spock saying, "No, I don't think we can do this." And even McCoy message it says, "That doesn't sound like Spock." To which Kirk said, I thought you always wanted Spock to mellow out.
That was a good
He said,
scene.
no, not like this. What we found out in the interim that DeSalle has sent up a load of these strange flowers up onto the Enterprise, and the spores are being released, and everybody is now being converted, are in the family, and start going down to the planet. Kirk goes back up to the Enterprise to find out what's going on, and he accuses people of mutiny, and they totally agree with him. They said, "This is mutiny," and they go, "Yes, sir, it is." He goes up to the bridge, and Uhura has sabotaged the communication system. He can't contact Starfleet, so he's there. While he was there, he's sat there and he's wondering what can be done, and he finally gets infected by the spores. He communicates Spock and says, "I'm now with you. I now understand. I've just got to pack some things from my place, and I will be back. I will be down." After he's packed, he's in the transporter room. He's getting ready to transport down to the planet, and he has this overwhelming anger, saying, "No, I can't live. No, I can't leave." And he's cured of the spores. By that time, he starts putting together a plan of how he's going to get his crew back, and the first person is Spock.
Of course, his beloved
I
Spock.
need your help. I need your help. We've got some equipment to take down, but I just need you. And he says, "Okay." He transports up, where Kirk then proceeds to insult Spock, calling him a half computer full of circuits and everything else.
He got Spock real angry. I don't know why.
Gets Spock angry, and basically Spock starts kicking the crap out of him. And during that time, just as Spock is going to slam something down on Kirk, the spores are released, and he is back to the old Spock. From there, they rig up the communication system to do a high-pitched tone that's like itching powder on the skin. And down on the planet, everybody starts fighting each other. And then everybody's back to normal. Even Sandoval says, "We've done nothing here. There's nothing we've done." And they go back to the planet. They go back up to the Enterprise, and they're leaving for the starbase. And one of the last things Spock says as they're leaving the planet, he said, "For the first time in my life, I was happy." And it is quite a somber, sad ending to an episode. There you go.
Well done. Very good. That was a good summary. It was not quite as long as my summaries, but it was very thorough, and you even did quotes, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I don't know. I'm feeling like, oh, hey.
Oh, no. You've been infected.
It's either that or he's been doing something under that table we don't want to know about.
Oh, my.
Oh, my.
So, yeah, guys, I just don't know. I don't think there's anything to talk about on this episode. Everything's great.
Oh, no, hippy dippy on us.
In the audience, we have our usual suspects. Hello, Jill, who is my appendix screwback, which was a great screen name.
Congratulations.
Congratulations on having your appendix back. Yep. Immortal Technique, Shishan Girl. Hello. And we might have. Oh, look, we have a Trek Cat in here as well. That's cool.
Yeah,
how are you in two places
How
at
did you get there?
We have a couple of questions already, or some statements and questions. I love how much it took to make Spock mad. Classic. It did take him a while, but I just thought it was funny because later he tells Data how he wants to be like an android or a computer. Like he's been striving for that kind of like, state, if you will. So he must have changed his mind, and I thought he would have been like, "That's a compliment."
I think it's consistent in that, like, in Unification 2, he tells Data that, like to be an emotionless android is kind of like what the Vulcans strive for, to be able to exist with like only knowledge and information and logic. and not have any of the emotion that the Vulcans try to, purge. So I think it was more of that. But deep on the inside, it's kind of like the heart wants what the heart wants type of thing. And he actually does enjoy being able to live emotionally, as we see in this episode. So I think it was kind of pressing his buttons to call him a computer.
Data, did it remind you of Data's emotion chip and Generations? No, it actually did not, but now it does kind of ring true. But all Data ever needed was to go to this planet Omicron Ceti III and get doused,
which is a real star, I believe, that they used for the name of this solar system.
Yeah. Actually, I think the first thing I really noticed in this episode is the outfits that the guys on the planet wearing. You can see where the utility uniforms for Deep Space Nine and Voyager come in, because they've got the round neck, they've got the black underneath, but it's very similar to the utility design that that comes into Deep Space Nine and Voyager.
It's true. I like this episode, but I thought it was weird that Spock changed off camera and was the only one that he was wearing the utility suit.
Because he had sex with her off camera.
Oh,
and
that's another one of those.
The audience know.
Oh, that was how they let us know.
At one point, he took his clothes off.
Very clever. Look how dumb I am. I had never noticed when they're having sex. It's so funny. This happened. What was that episode? PJ played it yesterday on his live stream, where I also didn't know. Anyways,
I know what you're talking about. That came up in a recent conversation.
That 1,000% changes my perspective, and now I understand why everyone's like, "This is the episode where Spock gets laid." Now I get it.
He bumps uglies. He bumps uglies.
Yeah, if you ask DC Fontana, who wrote this, she is, I believe, gone on record and said that is what happens.
What happened? Wow.
And she's like, no, it doesn't have to be only every 7 years. If he wants to do more than that, he can.
Yeah, it's true.
is what she has always claimed.
What's the deal with Spock and Layla? I want to know more about that. I wonder, would it make sense to get Layla in Strange New Worlds?
It has to be 6 years before this, so maybe not in season 1 of Strange New Worlds, but maybe in season 4. It would make a lot of sense to do this, actually.
Yeah, because you'll then get into that time where, however long they're going to take Strange New Worlds on, it's going to be one of the later episodes that they bring in. Yeah,
Layla. Who would play Layla today?
I think there's a lot of blonde women working in Hollywood.
Okay, I guess she does have to be blonde to keep the visual continuity. That's true. Yeah. I was gonna say she doesn't have to be.
She just needs to be blonde and speak in a weird transatlantic accent. You loved me back on Earth, didn't you?
That was a weird transatlantic accent. It's true. What did you guys think of Elias Sandoval and also the colony in general? What were your thoughts on that?
On one hand, they are kind of it's another the Archons. They're kind of cultish, type of thing. But also on the other hand, they really weren't hurting anybody, just, chilling on their farm, high on their spores with perfect health. Kurt kind of ruined it all.
I thought two things were weird. One thing that was weird and cool. The cool thing was that the show kind of doesn't do it directly, but there's a very science portion to the fiction here, which what were the particles called again? The
Berthold rays.
Thank you, the Berthold rays. They normally would cause tissue like ours to break down, but for whatever reason, the flora and the fauna on the planet are immune to it, and you can tell that because there's no animals, but there's plenty of plants and stuff like that. But then but then there's the added bonus of these spores are like kind of, and this happens in real life where there's certain plants that propagate by throwing spores on, like for example ants, and it takes them over. Like it actually like changes the way their brain function and actually controls everything about them, and their sole purpose is to get to the highest point possible so that a spore could, another thing could blow up out of the ant's head, and then more spores land on the planet below. So I was like so into the science part of this, which was like these spores that somehow, you know, give you this benefit, but also they're controlling you because they take away everything but like contentment and like, yeah, Jill's talking about it, the zombie ants. That's the thing, but it's all done with these like kind of spores, and this fungus that can actually control the ants' minds, which is insane. So I thought that was really cool, and I wondered if, I didn't have time to do any research, but I wondered if any of that was, you know, there, or if it was just like a happy accident.
I think the one question that I was that it left me, if Kirk hadn't found the cure to the spores, they were going to starve. Because to all of a sudden get an extra 200 and something odd people, and they weren't, and it was
400, yeah,
it had noticed that they weren't really growing that much. They were only growing enough to get by. Where was all that extra food going to come from?
That's a good point.
Really
You know, all that stuff. I think they would have been getting hungry really, really quickly.
Then they would have really become like cannibals and gone and raided the other villages. And
I think they would have found a cure to the spores straight away, because I think they would have started fighting over the
food. Or maybe the spores, while you're under the effects, you don't even notice you're hungry and you just die. It would
yeah,
be like
you probably would.
Well, they said there was no death.
Starving.
Yeah, and they only had enough food. They only had enough motivation to just keep everything status quo, which was really interesting. As like like that kind of contentment or happiness, I guess, that state of bliss, you know, lended to not much else other than the absolute necessities. They did seem to. Yeah, anyways, very interesting stuff. I loved all that, and I also wondered if the spores from Discovery were somehow responsible for because they, you know, they can travel through space, right? So maybe after they made that whole planet in season 1 of these spores, that those spores traveled through space and mutated and landed and created these flower spores on
well, Spock actually did say, didn't he? He said that these spores travel through space. They landed on the planet. So Spock actually said that.
Sorry.
I am so hoping that's shredding. I'm really.
It's shredding.
Or is just really excited to talk about spores.
A little bit too excited.
Howdy, Stress 3K, and then oh my, all the spore talk makes me homesick for the mycelial network.
Stress 3K, is that your home? Do you live in the mycelial network?
I think so. We already talked about Layla, and we all kind of are, I guess. I'm interested in seeing her in Strange New Worlds, and everyone, I guess, seem to be as well. I thought it was weird. Go ahead.
I said she is the only woman that Spock has loved.
I think he loves his mom.
Well, no, not
that doesn't count.
I hope he doesn't love her like that.
I think he loves Michael Burnham too. No, I know what you mean.
Yeah, but she is credited.
Is it in this in beta canon as it's known, or the beta lore or whatever? Doesn't Spock settle down and have a kid?
I don't think he settles down. Apparently, in Search for Spock, where he's going through Pumfar.
Savick, that's what it was.
That's with right. Savick, and he's and apparently Savick has a child. So that is a little bit of Alpha and Beta Canon sort of.
Right, it was cut out. Yeah. It was cut out of the story.
In Star Trek 4, they were supposed to confirm that she was staying behind on Vulcan because
She was pregnant.
and she was going to have her baby.
That's right.
On
That's
Vulcan.
where I know it from. I knew there was something about it. Yeah.
I don't know if they even shot that or if they cut it out of the script before they were shooting, but that was the original plan.
Yeah, that bit wasn't love. That was just sewing your notes. So.
Yeah. But in the episode Sarek of Next Generation, Picard says that he has met Ambassador Sarek one time previously at his son's wedding. So that would suggest that Spock got married, or maybe Sarek had another son. Maybe it was Cybok's way. It was Cybok returned from the center of the galaxy and got married, and Picard was there. I don't know.
I mean, Sarek had a daughter that we didn't know about. There could be another son. He doesn't say Spock specifically, so maybe Sarek adopted another kid. Could that be a possibility after Burnham, disappeared through time?
How many wives has Sarek actually had? We know of 3.
3 for sure that we know of, yeah. And those are the Vulcan princess. What was her name? T'Pring?
No, T'Pring was Spock. That was T'Pring time.
Spock's right.
That's season 2. We haven't gotten to that. That's like a month.
That's
from now. We'll talk about her.
Yeah. There was obviously the Vulcan princess. Then there's obviously
Amanda Grayson.
And then there's the one that we saw in Next Generation.
Whose name I can't remember, but she's cool. I like her.
Yeah.
I didn't like her at first.
Yeah.
But she is cool, yeah. So yeah, maybe she came with a son.
Yeah. Or maybe he was just a sperm donor and just he was running low on cash, got some money and had another kid.
Well, anyways, Spock's private life is dubious. Oh, I'm hearing myself. Who's that?
Not
That
us.
was fathery. I know that was
not
fathery.
me.
You have a mischievous smile on your face.
That's my default look.
Let's see here. So Spock in Love, we talked about that. Oh, I wanted to ask you guys about Bones' accent.
Oh, Jimmy boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, what the heck happened? Like, so does he normally suppress that accent? And then, like, it came out because he was so happy he didn't have to, like, suppress his... Was it, like, a Georgia accent, too? Like, is that, like... What...
Well, wasn't it a Georgia style?
Y'all come back now, you hear?
How do you have a Georgia-style mint julep?
Right, someone pointed that out as well. Someone pointed that out on Twitter that it's actually a Kentucky drink, right?
Well, a mint julep, to be a true mint julep, it has to be made with bourbon. And for a whiskey to be a true bourbon, it has to be made in Kentucky. So what would be the Georgia part of it? I don't know.
No.
But whatever he was drinking there at the end, it looked good.
That the color of the drink tends to hold true then, because it was a whiskey type color, that drink. Because I've never had a mint julep, so I don't know.
It's a mojito, but without club soda, and it has whiskey instead of rum.
I've had a Japanese style mint julep, but I think with that it uses Japanese whiskey instead of bourbon.
Okay,
that's cool. Ooh, we have some Japanese whiskey. Maybe I'll make a Japanese style mint julep later.
Well, you're going to put that in your tea after what you were saying about whiskey in your tea earlier.
Yeah, I was thinking of putting. Actually, I think you're supposed to put like gin in tea, right? Like
you know what? You know what? I was drinking in my tea last night was some vodka and some like I'm in Texas, so like sweet tea, like iced tea with sugar in it is like a popular thing here. But it was like sweet tea with some vodka and some lemon, and that's a good combination.
Fascinating. That is a delicious sounding combination, actually. Sweet tea with anything alcoholic.
Like in Texas, we serve tea cold and sweet.
Can you guys imagine Ethan Peck's Spock high on the spores? How sexy would that be? Now that I'm thinking about it, it might actually end up being sexy to see Ethan Hawke in ecstasy. with the spores. Ethan Hawke, I said. Wow, I meant Ethan Peck.
Ethan Peck.
I did this earlier, by the way. I was doing a fleet at Trek on the Tube trying to insult him, and I accidentally insulted you, Fathery. But I corrected it in my next fleet.
What'd you do? What'd you say?
I was saying that I was cuter than Trek on the Tube, and that's what I meant to say. But I said I'm cuter than Text Trek, and so then I had to correct it and go back and say, actually, Text Trek is cuter than I am, which is true. This is the truth. So,
that's the ranking. It's me, then you, then Trek on the Tube.
Trek on the Tube. Yeah, he's the least cute of the three of us. Actually, now that Ian's here, he's the most. Well, he's handsome,
Okay.
so it's different.
So Dadwell is like the highest rank.
Dadwell's the highest rank. Yes.
That's really years ago. That's never going to happen. Yeah.
But yeah, I just did it again with accidentally saying Ethan Hawke instead of Ethan Peck. So
you're still doing it. You've got Ethan Hawke on the brain.
I know. Ethan Hawke's ears must be ringing. I'm probably the first person to mention his name in 10 years. You know they sell. Oh, Father, this is to you. You know they sell bourbon in other states, right?
Right, but my understanding is
it's like champagne.
A Kentucky person. A Kentuckian?
Right, it can't be bourbon unless it's from Kentucky. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
It's like champagne.
They take pride in that. Like, it's just whiskey. If it's
so Georgia could produce a bourbon style whiskey, but it can't be bourbon.
Right.
Okay, I see. So it's like sparkling wine versus champagne. Because champagne can only be from runts.
Well, I don't know if everyone acknowledges that. Is the rule?
The French.
I don't know. I'm not a big champagne drinker.
I love champagne.
I only drink champagne at like New Year's Eve.
I drink sparkling wine more regularly than champagne, though.
Champagne's nice in the
samosa. Maybe it has a little peach in the mint julep.
That would make it Georgia-ish. Yeah, because Georgia is known for their peaches. You can only grow peach trees in the South because if it freezes in the winter, they can die. We had some peach trees when I was a kid, and then there was a bad freeze one year, and they all died.
My appendix grew back. Ethan Peck is cuter than everyone here. Be serious. Actually, I am being serious when I say, and I respect you, Ethan Peck, and I think you are very cute, but I think the three of us, might be cuter than you. But it has to be our forces combined, not individually. So that's that.
The only difference is now we've got Q here. Ethan Peck doesn't have it anymore.
Peck has we're I keep highlighting these I like it. It's a good thing. It's actually this episode relates to Ethan Peck because of his portrayal of Spock a lot, because for sure we're gonna get I'm very confident we'll get Layla back in Strange New Worlds. But anyways, I guess my question was Fathery, do you have a thicker accent that you hide that you perhaps hide, but just to communicate more universally, I suppose?
Not as much anymore as I used to. But yeah, I used to do that. I would try to suppress the redneck accent that I had as a kid. I've kind of just switched away from that. But if I'm around people who talk like that, then it comes back out in me.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm the same. I'm originally from London. I'm London by birth, and I moved to southeast of London, and they have a very similar accent. And I've sort of suppressed it a bit. It's still there, but I'm not as bad as I was when I was younger.
I grew up in Miami, and I never seem to have adopted the Miami accent. There's a particular accent of English that you get when you live in Miami, but I don't know what accent I developed. But yeah, it's interesting. I thought about that. I do sometimes when I speak to my Pakistani or Indian relatives on the phone, just naturally adopt their same accent, so I can kind of understand how that works as well. But I don't think I ever had that accent. I don't remember. I was too young. Let's talk more about the spores, science and science fiction. I think this is a huge Discovery influence here. I think that Discovery folks probably took some inspiration from these spores. What do you guys think?
Brian Fuller is obsessed with mushrooms, and he was obsessed with the real life Paul Stamets.
That's
a
true.
mycologist, so I think it came from that. But apparently, like every Brian Fuller show has like some mushroom
reference to mushrooms.
Yeah,
or
like
spores.
like one of the shows he made. I can't remember which one. Maybe it was Hannibal, but there's like a serial killer who's like growing mushrooms in the bodies of his dead victims. Or like, just like weird mushroom stuff like that.
Oh, that is creepy.
Do you think if Spock stayed on the planet, he'd have grown his beard back?
Yes, 100%. He would have totally done that. I guess Spock is definitely.
Is that actually Leonard Nimoy climbing that tree, or was that
It was no, for sure. It was for sure him.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, like, when I was watching it, like, I remember there being like a lot of close-ups of his face, and then like a lot of like wide shots. I was like, it was only after I watched it that I thought like maybe that was a stunt double, but I didn't want to rewind and like look again.
I never doubted it, but I never noticed stunt people looking different until someone points it out. Like when we were watching
Space Seed
together. That's the first time I ever noticed that they were stunt people, and I could actually see that they were stunt people, which is really funny.
Well, I think you can safely say the stunt doubles in this one were just as bad. That fight sequence in the transporter was really bad. You can tell it wasn't Nimoy, and you can tell it wasn't Shatner. They were really awful.
That's pretty funny. I have to pay better attention because I didn't notice it this time. I did like how easily Spock was able to bend that metal rod or whatever. That was really cool.
Yeah,
I always love Spock's displays of strength. Yeah.
The original series is like the only Star Trek show that consistently remembers that Vulcans are way stronger than humans. Some of the other shows forget that at times.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I think on Enterprise, they never show T'Pol being stronger than the humans. Like, it never comes up.
That's odd that they would do that. Like, I think that would be something that you would want to show. And being a full Vulcan, imagine the strength is even kind of... Maybe Spock has a different strength. Oh, who knows how it works when you're mixed. But, yeah, interesting. Very cool.
Don't they have a higher gravity than... Aren't they meant to have a higher gravity than Earth?
I think that's been suggested in some of the non-canon stuff. I've always kind of thought that was probably part of it.
It would explain the strength a little bit, like
and even like Michael Burnham might be like a little bit stronger than most humans because she spent so much of her childhood. Yeah,
Vulcan.
like her bones would have grown there. And by the way, speaking of Michael Burnham, I just got to point out how my one issue with this episode is it's kind of ridiculous how Kirk, just through like sheer like devotion to Starfleet, he's like the one person in this like entire crew who's just like pure enough and just in this very like heroic manner, like the captain can't be subdued by the spores, like he will break free. And imagine if they did a story like this now on Star Trek Discovery, and like
people Michael get so mad.
Michael Burnham was like they wrote her like they wrote Kirk, like the reaction to that. And like I don't think it's good. I don't think it's like good here. I don't think they should do that in Discovery. But I'm just saying like it's odd that no one complains about this in this episode.
But that's Go ahead, Ian.
What I was going to say was, I don't think it's his devotion to Starfleet. I think it's his devotion to the Enterprise.
Yeah. It's that love affair, the love of the Enterprise.
Yeah. I think it's that one. I think he loves that shit so much. I think he really wanted to leave.
Kirk seems immune to these kinds of things in general. Like he's immune to the effects Cybok has on people too.
Yeah,
And
he's the Gary Stew. Like Kirk is a total Gary Stew.
it's
In
true.
a way, like all the Star Trek captains are.
Yeah.
It's just becoming like a bit of a tradition. Like you always have like
We
the
we should
captain is just the
rename it.
best.
We should rename it from Mary Sueism or Gary Stewism to Captain's Prerogativism.
Captain's prerogative. Okay, there you go. And now Burnham has the captain's prerogative because they made her
She
captain.
now has the captain's prerogative.
Spoilers,
It's true.
spoilers for season 3.
But-
But Dorothy Fontana wrote this episode, and I want to talk about her for a little bit because she is so responsible for fleshing out Spock and giving dimension to Spock. And this is, I guess, this is kind of like the second time they really delve into it. Like we see a bit of it in the Naked Time when he's having his emotional breakdown. And, you know, we hear like bits and pieces about like his parents, and he had a human mother that he could never love and stuff like that. And, you know, we see more of that in season 2 of the show. But here, like the idea of like Spock and love, and like Spock being set free to where like he doesn't have to worry about suppressing his emotions or worry about trying to be like the good Vulcan, even though like he's half human. He has to like work twice as hard to prove to everyone that he can be just as good of a good Vulcan as anyone else. And that all came from Dorothy Fontana.
yeah, very nice shout out to Dorothy. If I had a glass, I'd cheers. That's true.
This episode is so much better that it needed to be, like, just because of like little character stuff. There's like a lot of cool like little character moments with both with Kirk and with Spock.
Mm. Yeah, I was going to say there's two things that stick out to me. Is Kirk's reaction to the emotional Spock, especially when he's hanging up. So, you know, we were saying earlier about, was that Nimoy hanging upside down? Is Kirk, when he first sees him, it's sort of like Kirk, Spock, Spock type thing. He has that bit, and I think near the end, it's sort of like he has that look of, I'm the captain. I should always get the girl. Why is it you get the girl this time?
There's a weird exchange when there's a lot. You reminded me that I wanted to talk about this earlier about Layla, like when she first walks into the room and then they do that shot of like that close up of Spock. It's weird that Spock doesn't even say a word to Layla at all. Like he's just kind of like quiet, and Kirk takes note of it. They actually do a shot of Kirk looking at Layla and then looking at Spock, and then, you know, kind of like this like thoughtful way, like, oh, what's going on here? Or like maybe even that what you just suggested, which is like, hey, pay attention to me, beautiful lady with the soft focus.
Yeah. I'm supposed to get the ladies on this show.
Yeah, on the show.
I think that's a bit of a Spockism, because when he finds he's a little bit uncomfortable, he clams up. He whether it's that reserve facade or anything, but when he's in a slightly emotional or a little bit where he's slightly uncomfortable, I think that's where he sort of clams up and he puts that Vulcan facade on. So I think that's where that came from.
Yeah, it is interesting that he when she's going through her kind of like emotion at the end, where she's, you know, confessing how she feels and like all that stuff, his response to her questions about his name is, you wouldn't be able to pronounce it. And I just thought that was a great way to like break up this serious thing. I think that's about the most tender moment you'll ever have with Spock, because it's the way he says it, and there is that tenderness in Spock when he says, you'll never be able to pronounce it type thing. That was really a touching. I thought that was quite a touching moment between the two. Do we ever get the name? We don't get it on screen,
No.
as far as I know, right? Yeah.
No, the only other time they mention this kind of thing of Vulcan language is that in Discovery, there's a flashback to Michael Burnham as a kid, like going to Vulcan school, and Sarek tells her that like her tongue would never be able to speak true Vulcan language.
Yeah.
Doesn't he say something like, it's not your tongue that's the problem, it's your human heart? It's
Your
like
human
even
mind.
no, he says heart. I think he actually says heart. Like he's very cruel, in my opinion. I don't remember, but I remember heart. You're probably
It's
right.
a slightly different line that they used in the trailer also than what was in the
Oh,
actual
gotcha.
show, as I recall.
Um, SFB triggered me to Google, and spores do survive in space and can even be revived after heavy UV exposure in space. Very cool. Thank you. But Kirk is always the last person to succumb to mental. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's the captain's prerogative.
Prerogative. we've all decided that that's what it's called. Let's see. My Kirk always overcomes mental hijacking when it threatens his beloved Enterprise and crew. Yep. And then Kirk and
Yeah.
Spock's deep romance is cemented in this episode as if on honeymoon this side of paradise. Yep, I definitely always see the bromance between them. It's definitely there. So
Well,
Spock's first time being happy. Do you guys buy it? Or is it a turn of phrase, or what's the deal, or
Yeah,
what's your theory? Yeah.
I think that's probably like his first time in his life where he was like allowed to be
yeah.
happy. Because like before,
Wow.
he always wanted to be like, the good Vulcan, like his dad, and he could never like embrace his happiness. He's like, no, this is an emotion. I need to reject this feeling and devote myself to pure logic. So this is guilt-free. This is guilt-free happiness, which he had never ever had in his entire life until he got high on spores.
I like that. There's a lot of answers on my Twitter question about this too that I really liked, and that kind of sums it up as well. But I was definitely like kind of perturbed by it because I kind of thought of Spock as happy, but I guess content. But I guess it makes sense that it's like this like ultra kind of happiness that like
I think it's a case.
This
This is the first time he's allowed to let his human side out, and I think it goes the other way. Scott's Vulcan personality suppresses the human side, and I think the spores allow it to go the other way. That the Vulcan is suppressed, and it's his human.
It's interesting that it was also painful for him when he was first spored. That it starts out as a painful thing, and then he succumbs to it, and it becomes like this other thing. So he does try to resist, I guess, but everyone else just kind of like is instantly transformed into that.
Yeah,
kind
everyone else was into it like right off the bat.
Yeah.
I think as you're saying, because I think Spock suppresses his emotions so deeply. I think it would be pain. Would probably be a physical pain. It's like when you're for us, if you're viscerally sad, that pain is physical. When we're unhappy, when we've lost a loved one, or there's an emotional breakup, that pain is physical, and I think that's what he was trying to be. Those emotional barriers are starting to be broken, and I think it's painful for him to allow those bits to come to pass.
Totally. No, I think that makes sense more to me now. Real quick, what's her name again? Layla. Sorry, I can't remember. Layla was played by Jill Ireland, who I didn't know from anything else, but I liked her a lot. I thought she gave a really good performance in this episode.
Two very famous husbands. She had two very famous husbands.
She had two. Who?
David McCallum.
Oh.
Eli Kyriakin, and obviously Ducky in NCIS, and Charles Bronson.
Charles Bronson?
Oh wow!
No way. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. That was his. I mean, she was his biggest heartbreak because she died of cancer, and they were married. Yeah, she was married to Charles Bronson. She died, and then I think it's in the 80s. I think she died of cancer, and he never really got over it.
Oh wow. Very cool. I didn't find that.
I never knew that either.
About her. That's very cool. My appendix grew back says I think Spock was happy with his pet in yesterday. Yeah, but not this happy.
Well, how did that end up?
I would say, yeah, that's true. That
Yeah.
did end up sad in childhood.
There's
I
nothing
wonder if
wrong with
Michael.
Ichaya. Nothing wrong with Ichaya.
Yeah. We can say he was never happy after that episode, after losing Ichaya. But that's also the point where Spock made up his mind that he was going to pursue the Vulcan lifestyle.
The discipline,
and
colonier.
And so that's kind of what set him on the course of, from that point forward, we can say like he always had to not allow himself to embrace happiness or any emotion.
Yeah.
And then yes, she was married to oh wait, sorry. I wonder if Michael Burnham has a secret Vulcan name to help her assimilate with the Vulcan kids, because she can neck pinch and knows the culture. She might have a secret Vulcan name.
But
we
would she be able to say it?
We may get. I bet she can, and we may, or she'll probably have. It'd be funny if she has
the captain's prerogative, and she's
right.
like, oh, I can speak the Vulcan words now.
It's true, and maybe we'll get Spock's name in the future if she ever says his true name. That might be something cool to get through Michael Burnham. That's a really good question. By the way, also the last thing I wanted to point out about this episode was that we do hear William Shatner, aka Captain Kirk, pronounce sabotage in that peculiar way that he does, which I love. I use sabotage. And then actually, Father, you reminded me. It was cool. At first, when I was first rewatching this episode, I was like, this is just like a ranch in California. But then after the explanation of like how they live their life and everything like that, it just kind of made it instantly like understandable. But it is still a ranch in California.
Well, with Ian being the construction guy, I wonder if this occurred to him too. But it's like they built this with like stuff that on the planet, right? Like they like chopped down like trees for like the wood. So where did they get like the shingles on the roof? Did they just bring like a bunch of shingles from Earth to do the roofs?
I think they would have taken everything with them. They would. I mean, they took livestock and everything with them. I think they would have taken out
they brought all the
stuff and everything else. So I think that's what they probably would have done.
Also, yeah. They only arrived on. It took a year for them to travel from Earth to this planet, and they've been on the planet for 3 years.
4 years.
Or 4 years. 4 years total. So it is odd that they wouldn't have had access to the same kind of replication technology that they had.
They said they didn't have any machine. Well, this is the bit. They had to take everything with them because you would have never got planed wood that way, because they said they had no machinery, no weapons, no nothing. I think they took everything with them.
Yeah, because they have like glass windows and stuff. Like, yeah, like you wouldn't have been able to like manufacture this stuff just out in the wilderness on this planet.
Yeah,
that makes sense. I'm glad I was thought of for sabotage, because it is the correct way to pronounce that word. It is sabotage.
If you're like Canadian, maybe is that a Canadian thing?
No, I just think it's a William Shatner thing. I've never heard anyone other than William Shatner pronounce it that way, or at least that's the first time I heard it pronounced that way. Sabotage, yeah. But Uhura sabotaged the communications. I didn't buy that he was going to be stuck, by the way, all by himself, and I also didn't buy that he couldn't fly the Enterprise by himself, because if Scotty could rig her to fly by herself later in Star Trek 3, I'm sure Kirk would have gotten there eventually as well. He's not a bad engineer, and he's pretty smart cookie. But yeah, he was having a pity party there. Any other notes or thoughts about this episode before we rate it and wrap it up?
I think it's not one of the best, but it's a sweet. It's quite. There's a certain amount of sweetness in this one, and I think it will always stick in the mind, because it's where you see Leonard Nimoy act normally as Spock, with emotion and everything. So I think that's what really sticks out in mind is, that he loved somebody, he laughed, he smiled, he looked at the clouds, he looked at rainbows, he looked at all
That's
those
right.
bits, saw dragons in the clouds and all that stuff.
Oh, and he
So
does mention, by the way, he does mention that he's seen a real dragon, which we see in the animated series, I think, as
Well,
well. The same.
we see several dragons in the animated series, but none
Yeah,
of
it's
them,
true.
none of them on the planet that he's talking about here.
Oh, gotcha.
Like what? Like it began with a B. It was like something 7, like by Miria 7 or something.
7.
Like that.
I hope we do get that adventure in Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, that would be really cool. And that would explain how he's seen them before. And T'Pol mentions this planet in Enterprise, and she's like describing. It's like, oh yeah, there's like these like winged lizard things, and they're like, oh, so like dragons. That sounds cool.
Very interesting.
So yeah, I'd like to see that in Strange New Worlds, and I would just add on to that this episode does give some seeds that grow into stuff that they use in later things, like that connection, but also the fight with Spock when Kirk does confront him. They obviously use that as inspiration for the Chris Pine Zachary Quinto fight for Command of the Enterprise in Star Trek 09.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way. Yeah, and I really never thought of it that way, because he's really sort of pushing for him to show the emotion, to get angry. Yeah. It's the first. Now you've mentioned it, I would never have connected the two.
Yeah, they even should have used like some of the dialogue, because it's like similar dialogue. He should have called it like, "You're an overgrown jackrabbit with a thyroid problem," or whatever he says to him.
He says all these things.
Like really weird, but it kind of made it more real. It's just like off the cuff. And so, but yeah, like this episode, it's like it's not particularly great, but I would consider it. I mean, like I think it's a very good episode, but there's nothing too remarkable about it other than the Spock stuff. I think it is essential viewing just for the character of Spock, and like I said, the writing and the character moments were so much better than they needed to be for this episode. The highlights being, Spock looking at the clouds and being in love, and then at the end, it's so heartbreaking there at the end when she's like, "Oh no, I've lost you," and I guess the moral of the story we haven't really touched on, but it's that idea of complacency is bad, I guess, and it's almost
Good point.
It's almost something like, I'm not sure if I agree with 100%, but like this idea of like, we can't be perfectly content and happy. We have to be suffering a little bit, I guess, to actually, like make ourselves better and contribute and strive to go forward. But I think that is the intent of the episode, is to kind of get that message across. I like the way that Kirk summarizes it at the end with, mankind was kicked out of the garden, referring to the Garden of Eden.
Garden of Eden, right?
And the Bible story of that. But he's like, well, this time we chose to step out on our own. Right? Yeah, because we're meant for bigger, greater, grander things.
Interesting. Very nice.
Maybe we need to go for the beat of the drum, not the pipe of whatever. We have to strive and fight for what we believe in and do.
You just made me immune to the effects of these spores here.
Well, glad to have you back.
Thank you. That was awesome insight. So what were your ratings, Fathery and Ian? Oh, I didn't go first. I usually say the ratings first so that you guys, it's like a tradition. All right. My rating for this episode was going to be like a 6.5, but the conversation and that little Fathery inspired me at the end. So I'm going to close out with a 7. I'm going to give it a 7. A solid 7. It's an episode I would probably actually put in a essential Spock set, or like like essential episodes for Spock. I would for certain put it in there, and definitely, like you said, about everything you said about Dorothy Fontana rings true, and it's just fun too. It's kind of a fun episode with like some of the elements like bones and and
it's nice Spock, to see them just walking around on a farm. It's like a little different.
I meant to say it was filmed really beautifully too, and I never appreciated it as a kid because I guess maybe on TV it didn't look as good as the remaster does, but I took particular note of how nice the filming was. And someone, I think it was PJ, mentioned that Desilu Productions' whole thing was to create really high quality productions so that they could syndicate it and put it out, and stuff like
true.
that.
Yeah, one of the reasons why Star Trek was so like well preserved is because they had very high standards at the Desilu company, and they took great pride in making sure everything was shot on like good quality film, and it made it a lot easier for the show to be syndicated so much, and then to be able to be remastered into HD in recent years.
Excellent.
I think that was a lot of that was down to Lucille Ball, wasn't it? I think that was Lucille Ball striving for that one.
Because I think they had a lot of money. Like I Love Lucy was like a big hit. So like when they expanded like their production company and started making like other TV shows, they were like one of the top production companies in Hollywood for television, I would think.
I was watching something yesterday, and I think that even the pilot itself cost like $600,000 at the time, which was a lot of money in the 60s. Was insane. And so I think, and then as the seasons progressed, the budget was reduced. So you see that more in season 3, but definitely in season 2, that there's not so many outdoor shots and things like that. The outdoors, a lot of the outdoor shots that we have in Star Trek is in season 1.
Well, and Jill pointed out something earlier, and you could see the production value. Like when the metal rod bends, even though it's probably not metal, it looks pretty metallic. And also the other items, when Spock punches the replomats that are in the transport room for some weird reason, when he punches, because they have sandwiches from it in another episode, I forget which.
Tomorrow is yesterday or whatever.
That's the chicken.
The Captain Christopher.
That's right. So, but he punches that, and even though it's probably like a plastic or something, it does have it looks metallic when he punches it, and it gives off that good quality. And also the walls don't shake when you bang people up against them. So the sets are built really solid, right? Like it's like, so. Yeah, good, all good points. So what were your ratings, Father? How many spore flowers out of 10 does this one get?
I'll give it 7 Georgia-style mint juleps out of 10.
Nice, I love that. And Ian?
I'm the same. I'm 7 spore plants out of 10.
Very nice, very nice. We all agree. It looks like the audience does too. Darren gives it a 6.9. By the way, the doggy is whimpering because of the Berthold rays.
Well, he's fine now.
Yeah, get him off the planet.
No, he was reacting like that because Antonia just came home, and whenever like she comes home, he like gets so happy. And she came home and gave me a coffee. That's what I'm drinking.
That's really sweet too. Let's see. I can totally see him as royalty on Strange New Worlds with some regal purple robes. Wait, I missed that. Was that about Cybok coming in to Strange New Worlds? Because I would like that, by the way.
No, I don't think you should see Cybok in Strange New Worlds. Because nobody knew about him until Star Trek 5.
Well, no, Kirk and crew didn't know about him.
Yeah, that's true. Like Pike might have known.
It's not necessarily true.
I would be so impressed. I would be so impressed if they did something with, like, I would think they would just be so scared. Everyone hates Star Trek 5. They wouldn't want to touch it. But that would be so bold. That would be like really like going boldly if they did something with Cybok.
I think there's definitely like room for that. And it would be a really good juxtaposition to how sort of like Spock is kind of lording over Michael. Cybok would definitely probably lord over Spock a little bit because he's the older brother. So it would be interesting to see some of that dynamic.
There's this great moment in the Star Trek 5 novelization when Spock is a little kid and he's never met his older brother Cybok. Cybok's like, I don't know, like 18, 19 years old, and like Spock is much, much younger. He's like 5 or 6, I think. And he's so nervous about like, oh, like my brother might not like me. I'm like this weird half human kid, and he might think that I'm too weird. And what if he hates me? And then like he goes to like finally meet Cybok, and Cybok is just like so like smiling and happy and like embraces him, and he's like, Spock, you're my brother and I love you, and like it made Spock feel like so good.
Oh, that's very cool. Very cool. All right.
Just one thing about
Oh, go ahead.
Strange New Worlds. Just one bit
Yeah.
about. Apparently, Anson Mount, his wife, and all the dogs have now moved to Canada, and they are now isolating in Canada. So they're probably getting ready to get to filming Strange New World soon.
A nice little indicator that it is going to get started. I've been enjoying the Paramount promos, the Paramount Plus promos that
They're on
have,
they're on the mountain from the Paramount logo. Like I was confused at first. But yeah, that's why they're on a mountain, because of that logo.
It's the logo, exactly. On Paramount Mountain, it's true.
Yeah, and Patrick Stewart narrating. I like that they're advertising with Strange New Worlds. It's like, oh wow, like you're really proud of the show you haven't even made yet. But I mean, they want Captain Pike to be like the face of this. Like they everyone loves Anson Mount.
Yeah, he's great though. It's because he's really something about him is just very compelling. He does.
Totally different. Totally. He's a very, very quiet person. Very quiet person. I've met him.
Check out his podcast, by the way. I don't shout it out. I haven't shouted it out recently, but it's called The Well, and he does it with his friend Brandon Engines, who used to be a makeup artist, creature effects and things like that for in Hollywood, and now he does other things with music and stuff like that. But The Well's a really great podcast, and if you want to get a little bit more of a flavor of Anson Mount, the person himself, he really puts himself out there in it, so it's pretty cool, and it made me fall in love with him more actually, listening to that podcast. And while we're at it, if we're subscribing to podcasts, be sure to subscribe to Text Trek, which you can get in audio format as well as on YouTube. And also, even though we're way behind, Starfleet Boy is also available as a podcast in audio format. So please check that out too and subscribe if you like. You can catch up on some of our old episodes. Cool.
Right on.
Guys, this was a really enjoyable, casual and informal conversation about this episode of Star Trek. I really had fun. Thanks for being on, and
just
live long and prosper.
Just a quick one then for next week, because next week's one of my is a really, really good episode next week.
It's the Horda episode, The Devil in the Dark. Yes.
Yeah, and then City on the Edge of Forever after that, right?
Yeah,
oh my gosh, so. Yeah, we're like hitting
There's some classic Trek coming up.
Some good stuff. Yeah. Ooh, I love it. Oh, and I don't think I promoted Trek Cat, by the way. Go check him out on YouTube. He just dropped a new video, first of the year.
First one of the year. It's the It's the Lego build of the Discovery refit. So that has gone out today.
It's super cool. Go check it out. Yeah, and it's a nice upping in your production value, I noticed. So very, very well done. All right, guys, live long and prosper, and we will see you next time. Boo.